Hi, everybody. I just wanted to update everyone on a great day I had yesterday and some good news. The Polluter Pay Federation and myself have decided to join forces with a new coalition of organizations across Alberta that are concerned about the energy regulator and how it's doing its job. The coalition is called the Coalition for Responsible Energy, and we've set off with two challenges. That's how we're going to start taking on the regulator. Our first one is a regulatory appeal using the orphan well that's on my land. We're basically challenging the AER's interpretation of the Oil and Gas Conservation Act, Section 73 guidelines for the orphan well levy. We're saying that they've set it way too low. They've set a 2025 levy at $144.45 million. The Orphan Well Association tells us that they are short funded $862 million in order to handle the inventory that's already on the books. We also know that the Oil and Gas Conservation Act gives the guidelines that basically says they're to look at the AERs to look at three things before it sets the levy. First thing is to look at is the number of new orphans coming into the system, and they have to estimate a cost of what it would be to clean those up. That is the first part of the levy, the annual levy. And the second part, which is the big part, is they're supposed to look at any shortfall from the previous years. And in reality, if you look how the whole levy guidelines are set up, the fund should never really be short, longer than say maybe a year, as they keep covering whatever miscalculations they made on estimating from the previous year. That hasn't been happening for the last 33 years or so. And so the Orphan Well Associations finds itself in a very precarious situation, being short $862 million to be able to meet its obligation. The fourth criteria for the setting of the levy, of course, is they're supposed to have a small emergency fund for closing off some of this stuff should something be happening that needs to be done immediately. The second challenge we've also put in is also again around that. It was just submitted here May 26th. It has to do with with what we call a request for reconsideration, and that is under the REDA, the Responsible Energy Development Act. That's basically again saying that we don't think that the AER's decision around the 2025 levy was correct, and we want them to look at that again. We're currently awaiting a response from the AER as to whether we will have hearings and that sort of thing. This is a first time attempt at being able to get something like this done. Nobody else has tried this, not this direction, doing these challenges. So we're hopefully we'll be successful at this and be able to get some of these things dealt with. Why does it matter? Well, it matters because there's a larger risk to health and well-being of the people who live around this stuff. And we got to remember, it's in the backyards of many rural people. We know that these stuff leaks various toxic vapors. They just drift across the land and can be entering into your yards. And if you're out there working around them in the field, that's where the well's located. You could even be igniting some of these because many of them are explosive. Not only are they poisonous, but they're explosive. There are spacing rules around these well sites, and they're there for the protection of the population that might be around these sites. Many people don't realize how dangerous these sites can be. We have health studies that have been done that show over time, if you're exposed to this stuff, it just builds up in your system and can cause all kinds of health problems. And we do have the right as citizens of Canada to be safe on our land and in our homes, and that may not necessarily be happening. So we do have some doctors organizations that have joined us in the coalition and point to that big risk. So the longer these things sit on the land, the more risk there is to people's health and to our environment. That's why it's imperative that we get this stuff cleaned up as soon as possible. The industry is the one who made the promise back in 1991 that they would basically were offering the Orphan Well Fund as one big levy or one big security deposit for the industry as a whole. But then they turned around with the help of the AER and underfunded that for the last 35 years. And that's why we've got $862 million short at the Orphan Well Association. That Orphan Well Fund exists. Its main mandate is to protect taxpayers from having to cover the cost of cleaning up after bankrupt producers. Is it really a safety net then if it's underfunded? It is probably more like a safety net that's full of holes. Again, we didn't take security because it was always the AER would always say, well, we're going to allow the liability dumping. We know these companies are maybe not poorly financed, but the industry has promised that they're going to clean up after these guys. So we're not taking security. We're going to make sure that they, through the Orphan Well Fund, clean up after themselves. But then they turned around and promptly did not follow the law, the guidelines that are in law, to set the levies and to fund the Orphan Well Fund, the security net for taxpayers properly. And so we have some issues today. So if you want more background on all this, I've added some stuff down below this video, and we just want to announce today that we're the launch of CARE, and we hope that you join us and start looking into some of the information, and maybe you'll realize just how big of a problem this really is. Thank you for your time. Have a great day, folks. Talk to you later.